What up, Soapers? I'm here with another podcast. I know people have requested it. And let me tell you, it feels good to talk with, I think many of you are probably much like myself, utilitarians. You're very frugal, responsible individuals. And the times that we live in now are uncertain and somewhat frightening. Certainly this last week has been very, very stressful. It's been hard for me to enjoy my showers when I'm looking at the global, national, and even local economy. So over here, and I'm just going to point this out really fast. Sometimes I talk about stock market and investment and things like that, but the best advice, honest to God, the best advice that I have that I can give those of you watching this is to insulate your life from these sort of external difficulties that may arise. Right here next to me on my little computer table, my workstation, is a bread maker. And this is a KBS bread maker. I bought it off of Amazon. I paid $140 for this. And if food prices increase, if it becomes more expensive, electricity, labor for supermarkets, because right now it's still more cost effective, honestly, and easier just to buy your bread. When I go to Walmart, it's maybe $1.50 at most for a loaf of bread. That's just easy. But if that price keeps going up, for instance, I think it was maybe about a year ago, I talked about how I got a water filter because I used to just buy bottled water, but the price of bottled water just kept going up and up. You know, it used to be 55 cents, then it was 89 cents, then it was $1, then it was $1.30. Last time I was in Walmart, I looked and it was $1.37 for a gallon. So I just bought myself a water filter and now I'm saving a lot of money because being from Arizona, I do drink a lot of water, although now I live in Rhode Island. Anyhow, with this bread maker, I don't really have to worry as much how much bread will cost because I can make it myself at home. And sometimes, well, realistically, I'm a lazy cook. I'm also not a good cook. I don't like to put a lot of effort in. And sometimes when I do put that effort in, it doesn't always turn out that great. But one thing I have learned through life is that you can make up for your deficiencies with small appliances. So this thing is going to make bread far better than I probably could myself if I was doing everything by scratch. And it takes about 5 minutes. You just pour all of the ingredients in and then boom, you're done. So I urge you, if you're watching this, to get yourself small appliances that will make your life easier because I know a lot of people. Now, I'm not one of them. I'm a pragmatic person. I don't like to eat out that much. I do enjoy it from time to time. If I have friends over, guests, things like that, if I'm going on a date, whatever, I will throw down money to eat out in restaurants. But that does get expensive and, you get a tip and you have to buy expensive meals. It's not cheap to eat out all the time. So many people, they eat out constantly, sometimes 2-3 meals a day. I don't know how folks can afford DoorDash as much as they do. But with the small appliances that I have, I can make fantastic meals. You just put things in the machines, you come back, you set a timer, boom, it's done, and you've got food that is certainly restaurant quality. And I do want to take a moment to talk about tariffs because I used to never pay attention to where things come from. I just didn't care. But now that I've been doing some shopping, I'm certainly more well aware. When I got the bread maker, one of the things I did look at when it arrived is, hey, where does this come from? And it comes from China. I paid $140 for this. If I purchase this after the full effective tariffs, and that will take some time to work through the supply chain. But let's just say that occurred. Instead of paying $140, this would be something like $340, $360. It's really quite shocking. Like when you see the prices that you're going to be paying for a lot of goods that we have always taken for granted, it will certainly be eye-opening. And that's another reason I'm making this video because I want you to be prepared and well aware of what's happening first. Now, I'm going to grab something off screen. I got to get up. I don't know why I didn't have it in position. The supply chain does take time to work through. The warehouses are still stocked with goods made in China. But some of the goods that will increase quickly in price that are not well stocked up are electronics, complex electronics. So you probably saw my last video where I did a podcast, and I really enjoy doing the driving podcast where I'm filming these beautiful areas. And I was very unhappy with the footage that I filmed from my camera. And so I thought, I'm going to get an action camera and I'm going to post this on top of my car. I'm going to suction cup it on and I'm going to get some really good video. And I paid $229 for this. It's a DJI Action 4. Now, this is not even the current model. They're on Action 5, and I was able to get this new at a great discounted rate, and I only purchased this a few days ago. But if you factor in what this will be after tariffs, it will be more like 500 something, right? I was willing to risk destroying this by putting it on top of my car. I don't like the thought of throwing away 230, a little bit more than that with taxes. However, if this is going to end up costing $500, I'm probably going to try filming from inside my vehicle while I'm driving, like I did with my cell phone, which I would never risk on the outside of my car. But this is what's happening in the country right now with prices, and it's creeping up slowly. So there is still time. I always go to Camel, which is a price tracker for Amazon. And so I was able to see the last several years of pricing for this, and I actually got a good deal, $229. So I'm not willing to pay tariff prices, and I'm not going to do that. So just make sure you're pricing things so that you don't get ripped off. And there are so many pitfalls that you have to watch out for. Originally, I was not going to buy this bread maker from KBS. I was going to get the KBS 19-in-1 bread maker, which was a newer model, and it was only about $89 on Amazon. I was like, oh, this is great, because I'm doing some panic shopping right now. I'm purchasing things that will help me insulate my life from, maybe the dollar going down in value. Who knows what's happening. But I ended up going with the KBS 17-in-1 bread maker, which is older. And I always watch a lot of video reviews. I see what other people are saying about the products. And I discovered that this bread maker, now if you use a bread maker every single day, that's going to take a toll on the motor. And what they did, KBS, is that they put a cheaper motor in the 19-in-1. So sure, it's $89 instead of $140, but like a year and a day after the warranty expires, your bread maker might just, kind of, well, I don't want to say the bed, but your bread maker might just stop working. And who wants to pay for something 2 or 3 different times? So for me, purchasing quality products is really important. And I've discovered so many fascinating things. I don't know if I'm saying it right. I'm just going to say zucchini. I've got a rice maker from Zucchini. I purchased it years ago. It's the best rice maker I've ever had. And it wasn't super expensive. It was far more expensive than your Black & Decker. It was maybe like $140, and it came from Japan. So I was going to get myself a Zucchini bread maker, but those were going for about $400. I priced it, and you can see the effective tariff is already hitting pretty hard. And then I researched deeper. And not all of the Zucchini products are actually made in Japan now. Several of them come from China. So there are many things that are going to increase dramatically in price. And even though the government is saying that inflation is under control and it's slowing, there are all these different effects in certain parts of our life that aren't necessarily accounted for. I've got a good friend who is an HOA president, and we chat about things like that. And she tells me how her association that she's running, everything is going up in price. Like if you need maintenance done, you're paying for labor, and the labor is much more expensive than it used to be. You're paying for materials from Home Depot, and that has gone up. And then you're paying for insurance for your property, things like that, also increasing. So everything is going up, even though supposedly things are staying flat. And that is a concern for a lot of folks out there who are living the experience. Kind of lost my train of thought there, but I think you get what I'm trying to say. And I just feel really, really confident. You're my audience. I want you to have comfortable lives, to do as well as you can. And the best advice, I know I sometimes talk about finances, and every now and then I talk about stocks and portfolios and whatnot, but the best advice that I can give you is just make sure you have a well-stocked kitchen. I even went so far as, and this is going to sound kind of crazy, because for me it is, I purchased a cheapo sort of vacuum sealer device that you put the food in the plastic, and then you put the plastic with the food into this device, and it sucks all the air out. And then you can stick it in your freezer, and it's going to stay good without freezer burn for far, far longer than if you just shove something into your freezer. And I hope to God I never have to use that device, but I would rather have it and not need it, right? Especially, I don't want to pay tariff prices. I'm not, because we are, and not only that, I think there's another factor at play here with the tariff war with China. I'm hearing, because many of us, we watch the news, and so we're hearing the reports from the small business owners. They ordered something 20 days ago, right? Before the whole tariff, before Liberation Day. And so those goods are on a ship, and I feel terrible. Absolutely terrible for small business owners. Those goods on a ship are on their way. It takes 20 days, maybe 15 days to go from China to the United States, because those massive container ships, they move really slow. And so these goods are now arriving in the United States, and whereas before maybe they were paying 25, possibly at most 35% in tariffs because that whole regime was already set up. Well, now they're having to pay 145% when those goods get unloaded from the ship. And you've got small business owners who are simply not taking delivery. They're like, we can't afford this. We have to refuse it. It's done. And so they're going to run out of product in a few months. And they're going to go bankrupt. And there's a lot of damage being done to small businesses. And it's really, really very sad. So these are uncertain times. And at least for me, my panic shopping, I have a limited amount of money. I'm a man of limited means. I'm still going to spend like crazy for soaps. Don't doubt that. But I do feel so much more comfortable when I have a bread maker in my house, right? Like maybe I won't make bread every day. Maybe it'll be once a week, but I can make some crazy artisanal bread. I can give this to friends, family, coworkers, whoever. And that just makes me feel good. It makes me feel safe. So yeah. Anyways, those are just my thoughts, and I wanted to share them with you. I will do some soap reviews here in the near future. This is Whiskey Reserve from Bath & Body Works. This is for men. It's a bar soap. It's really good. It smells incredible. Although it doesn't really smell super gendered. It really smells like a gender-neutral product. So I wonder, though, taking this moment to discuss products. As the U.S. consumer becomes more and more constrained, if we do see that continue to increase, if inflation kicks up, because I'm really quite concerned about the bond market. That's another topic for another day. Will we begin to see a pullback in discretionary spending, right? Like instead of buying Bath & Body Works, are people just going to switch to, let's say, Ivory soaps? And Ivory even reformulated their longtime soap that they'd been making for like 100 years. And I'm sure that reformulation was not to include better ingredients, but most likely cheaper ingredients. And so anytime soap companies reformulate their products, God, I hear it. People come to me and they're like, Lever 2000 is the perfect example. They reformulated it. They took out the palm oil and it was never the same. I got just bombarded with comments, people up in arms. I have no control. I can't tell Lever, hey, put it back, make it the way you used to. Eventually, though, they did because they got so much blowback. But it's gone back and forth. Like they brought it back to what it used to be. Then they went back to being cheaper. And I think we just are going to see a trend in this. I'm noticing when I'm shopping, it certainly seems as if the ingredients, and I don't follow the ingredients closely, but I do see a trend of going cheaper. And some of the things that small soap makers have been telling me recently within the last week is just that so many of the ingredients for their products, they come from abroad. There's very little, we're talking artisanal soaps, so few ingredients that are actually made in the United States. So even a 10% increase is a 10% increase. And I'm really still tore up about coffee, right? Like, how could you tariff coffee? Don't tariff coffee. God, no. Right? Like, I love coffee. So, all right, I know. There's just crying on my part. These are difficult times. Anyways, I want to thank you for joining me, and I will see you next time.